Welcome. You're listening to the Leading Hope Podcast. My name is VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor, Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your busy day to become a better leader. If you're new, we release a new episode every Wednesday morning. We would love for you to remember that by hitting the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and share this with a friend on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please rate and review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. You won't believe how that helps get this in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us every week. Visit leadinghope.online to get updates, find out more about the Leading Hope community. Today, Kevin, we don't start. It's just a continuation of what we've already been doing, which is podcasting. How about that? Podcasting.
I was sitting here
I saw your face.
But we are starting.
Yeah, we are starting. This is episode 221. You've titled this "The Distinction Between Shepherds and Leaders."
Yeah, today we're starting a new 4-ish part series.
Ooh.
We'll see how long it goes.
I'm excited.
We haven't done a series for a long time. Like, it's all just been boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. So the series, like, if we're going to title the series,
here we go. Okay.
I want to just title the series Shepherds and Leaders.
Okay.
And this is where it came out of. So we're at a conference recently, and this guy is talking about their multi-site church and how when they first had these different campuses at their multi-site church, they thought that what they needed was shepherds over the campuses. And that each campus only grew, not every campus grew to this amount, but each campus tapped out at about 500 people.
Got it.
His statement was, he said, and then we realized after we'd done this 4 or 5 times that we didn't need shepherds. We need people who were leaders. And as soon as we made those changes, we saw things begin to grow again. We saw things begin to move.
Interesting.
And so this kind of created some conversation with some of our team and just kind of like, okay, so what is that? And I was pressing one of our team members just in a great way. We have a great relationship. Just like you could really fall into that only shepherd category.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, so what's that look like? I was like, I don't know.
That's great.
I'm not actually sure exactly what that means. I just see you at times defaulting to that.
It's good.
So these like series really just kind of came out of those questions and those conversations.
Got it.
And my desire, honestly, initially is to be helpful to our team. My real desire is to be helpful to our staff on this and help them see. And when I say staff, I mean everyone who's leading at a significant level within our community.
Yeah.
I don't just mean paycheck, payroll.
Correct.
But then within that, we want to make this available to others, and hopefully this will be helpful.
I guarantee it will be, because we're figuring it out right now.
So, and I want to share. So, like, we'll get into this one is one episode. As we get into the next one, it'll make sense because we've got a number of items. I want to clarify that what I want to do today is I want to create a distinction between a shepherd and a leader.
Yeah.
And if you're in the business community, if you're not in church world, I still believe this is going to be really helpful. And while maybe my initial goal is for people in church leadership to see the need not just to shepherd, but what it looks like to lead.
Yeah.
We're also going to make the case, especially as we get to the end of this series, of the need for shepherding.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna, here's my one qualifier, if I could, is I'm going to make distinctions between the two that probably aren't necessary, that maybe someone who has more of a bent towards a shepherd is going to be like, well, no, I do that. Well, no, I actually do these things that are helpful and good. And the point of making the distinction is not to paint shepherding in any way as bad.
No.
Just to clarify maybe some skill sets that are lacking within that disposition.
Yeah, it sounds like you're bent on this maybe more, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not an and or, but a both and.
Yeah.
Like, it's this, and you have to add some other tangibles to actually go above
exactly
the qualifier.
So here's kind of my thesis, is that learning to lead when you know how to shepherd is a higher skill set, and that you have to develop that skill set.
Yeah.
Now I do believe you need the foundation of shepherding within that. And if I could, so let's
100%.
just give some definitions initially.
Yeah.
Okay. So like this will hopefully alleviate someone's tension who feels like they shepherd really well and they don't like what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Is just I'm going to go off of my definition.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what their definition is.
Yeah.
So my definition is the only one I have.
Right.
Okay. So if we could just go off of my definition. Shepherding, when we're talking about shepherding, we're talking about care. The title pastor actually came from the shepherding profession, and it was the role of the shepherd was to lead the sheep to green pastures. And that's where the term pastor came from, is it was someone who would lead someone to a better place, which I think is interesting.
It's very interesting.
We don't use the word pastor like that now. Like when we use the word that someone is very pastoral, when we turn it into an adjective, I really think people mean they have a soft touch.
Okay.
Like if someone's pastoral, it would be the equivalent of saying like it's a doctor with a great bedside manner.
Okay.
That is what people commonly refer to as pastoral.
Uncommon care, would that be accurate?
Uncommon care communicates a high level of effort.
Okay.
And I don't think that is necessarily what we mean by shepherd. Okay. I think what we mean is care focused. Okay. I want to make sure y'all right? Everybody okay?
Okay.
That is commonly what is viewed as, or at least let's just say it like this. In this series, that's how we're going to view the idea of shepherding.
Got it.
Where a leader is more focused, even though this goes against the initial definition of where pastor came from. Leader is about moving from one place to another. Now, for us, and we've talked about this at length, leadership is not about title. It's not about position. It's about movement. You can have the title of leader and yet not be involved in the activity of actually leading.
It's good.
Cool. So that's where we're just going to draw the main frame. Shepherding, care-focused, leadership, movement-focused.
Okay.
Good?
Yep. Great. That's good.
Okay. So here's where I want to start to make some distinctions between the two is if you are... I have a hard time with this because you can't be led well and have people not care about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say it for the purpose of the discussion. If you are led well, but there is the absence of that shepherding piece, okay? There's that absence of that personal care. So we only have the dynamics and skills of leadership, but we don't have that personal touch, that soft touch, okay?
Yep.
The result is going to be is there will be a high level of impact, but when people go through it, they'll drop out. Like when people are when their life is chaotic and it's not just their work life because the organization is but when their marriage is struggling, when their kids are giving them a high level of stress, when people go through it, they'll drop out and they will look back on that season as one of their greatest seasons, but they're glad they're done with it.
Got it.
And I've seen this dynamic. I go how was that? It was amazing. It was incredible. Why'd you leave? Well, we had this and the commute and the time, and we had young kids. Would you go back and do it again? Absolutely not. And so that's what, if there isn't that soft touch present, those are the dynamics that are naturally created. Those are the outcomes. Where on the other side is if there's only shepherds, okay? So we don't have high-level leaders. We have only shepherds. People will be well cared for and well supported. And here's what we think, and this is the thing that I just really want to communicate. We think that if there's only shepherds, people will love it and it is the healthiest they will ever be. But we were made for change. Even though we resist it, we were made for change.
Yeah.
And so the reality that becomes is because we were meant to grow and respond to challenges, the organization and people will stall out.
Yeah.
This is when people begin to get frustrated, even though everything's fine.
Yeah.
Because we were not meant to stay in a static ecosystem at all times.
It's good. Going back to your original definition, just so we can make this crystal clear.
Yeah.
You used the language that a shepherd leads people to green pastures.
Just
so we can make sure that we're really clarifying these definitions, because here's the really hard work, and this is where leaders, at least in my experience, have failed, is they say we're going to do this thing, or they try to explain the difference between two things without defining what they are. And you're doing that now, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And I just want that clarification for our listeners to understand.
No, my point in there was we get the word pastor from the idea that the role of a shepherd was to lead people to green pastures.
Right.
That is no longer how we commonly use the term shepherd.
So you're taking that out of what it was originally intended to be, which is actually super helpful for what we're trying to say.
Which I think that's so important, just because when we say someone shepherds well, we are not communicating about their leadership.
That's good.
We are not communicating about the movement of the people.
That's good.
We're communicating about their personal care for the people.
Major difference.
Yeah. So we say they're a shepherd.
Yep.
What I think in my head is not let me say like if someone said to me, they're a great shepherd.
Yeah.
I do not think development is inherent in who they are.
Right.
I think care is inherent to who they are.
I want to go off on a bunch of stuff right now because I just had this meeting with one of my team leads. She is asking what the difference is because she wants more than the care, because she doesn't want to leave people where they are.
Good. Amazing.
Yeah, and because she is a great shepherd, but she feels like she's got to call them into something greater than where they are, which is the movement that you're talking about.
Yep.
It's great.
And so here's the, I'll say it as like, here's the concern on both sides.
Yep.
Is that shepherding in the business community feels soft.
Well, it's a soft touch. It should feel that way.
But it's like, it's this sense of like, it's not, I forget who it was. I was listening to someone years ago and they were bemoaning the fact that we labeled skills hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah.
Like technical skills as hard skills and relationship skills as soft skills.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, because what we automatically did is we created this hierarchy of skills when the relational skills are even more important than the technical skills to work on a team.
Yeah, that's good.
And so like my concern is that in the business community, shepherding feels like it's weak leadership.
Yeah.
My other concern is that in the church community, we've seen so many abuses of toxic leadership. We've seen so many abuses of unhealthy leadership, which should never be present in the church world, that anything that looks like strong leadership is now viewed as toxic leadership.
Yeah.
And so we've got this like back and forth where I really believe that the secular business world and the Christians operating in it need to embrace more what it looks like to shepherd and care. And again, we'll get into this series. But then honestly, my real goal in this is to go that for the church community, we could understand that yes, you should have a foundation of caring for people. But if that's all you have is I care for people, you not only are you not able to lead them, but like they will eventually become frustrated in your lack of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm just going to make people mad right now. And I'm not doing it to make people mad.
All right. But you're going to.
I have heard so many times pastors say, and I'm not saying this is always true of this scenario. Okay?
Sure.
I want to give myself enough waivers at the beginning.
Yeah.
I've heard so many times pastors say of like, I'm so hurt because this family went through it and I was there with them every step of the way at the hospital, at the funeral, whatever all the other scenarios are. And then a year later, they left the church. Now, there could be 1,000 other things going on. There could be a fresh start. There could be relational dynamics. There could be hurt feelings. But I think one of the dynamics is that especially pastoral leaders think that if they shepherd people, that's enough. And to care for them is essential, but you also must lead them.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of hurt of to go, I was with them, I invested this time, how could they walk out on me now? And to go, well, again, there could be other stuff. I'm not saying this is true of every scenario, because what always happens in this, I just want to clarify, is like, I'll make a general point and people will have a specific circumstance.
Yeah.
And they assume my general point is automatically applies to their specific circumstance.
Yeah.
And then they get mad at me.
Sure. Yeah. We all do that. I mean, yeah, I get it. Yeah. I think the interesting thing of what you're saying, and I'm going to try to articulate this in a way that is palatable. maybe you're going to get to this, so I don't want to get ahead. But
Cool.
you refer to the shepherd as caring, which is a foundational piece for any shepherd, right? I mean, you've got sheep on the land. You don't want them to not be cared for.
Yep.
Like, it sounds very elementary. But the word care is where this gets so confusing for people. Because
Keep going. I'm going to change your words in a second.
yeah, I can't care for someone by allowing them to stay stuck.
Yep.
That's not care.
Yep.
And I think people think they're, I don't know how to say this, they're over index
Yep.
on that care. Well, I'm just caring for them because I have compassion. And you should.
Yep.
No one's saying don't do that. I have that in my life. I literally weep with people like I do.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to weep forever.
Yeah.
And my goal is to help them see past what they are currently in. We said it the other day, and I've just been stuck on my mind ever since you said it. Jesus endured the cross for the hope set before him.
Yeah.
I don't want them to stay enduring the cross forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, but this piece of the care part, I think needs to be explained more.
So this is where I would just switch the terminology briefly.
Yeah.
Is care is an adjective.
Okay.
Love is a verb.
Yeah.
And so if I love someone, and some people will say like, oh, love doesn't have an agenda. Liar.
Oof.
Love absolutely has an agenda because love wants to move someone to the healthiest place possible.
That's great.
And so I think the thing where this gets messy in the midst of it is to say like, if your care is love, you have to lead.
Yeah.
If your care is only care, you're willing to just be with them in compassion wherever they are and let them stay there. But that is the reality is people are like love doesn't have an agenda. It always does. Because if I love my friend who's an alcoholic, I don't let them stay there.
Yeah.
If I love my friend who's in a tough spot, I move them to a healthier spot.
So in your personal definition of what you just described, you can care for someone and let them live there.
Yeah.
But you can't love them
Absolutely.
fully. So care and love is the difference between fully shepherding, leading in that order.
Yep.
Got it.
Agreed entirely.
Makes complete sense at that point.
So then my hope within this
Makes it hard. Right?
Oh,
Which
yeah.
is probably the whole, if we get back to why we're actually having this episode,
Yeah.
not a lot of people want to do that work because it is.
My hope within this is to, throughout this series, and this was just to kind of get thoughts going, help create the distinction between the two.
Start moving
And
people.
yeah, my hope within this is first to say if you should not lead if you don't care about people.
Yeah.
If you only care about outcomes, you should not be in a position of leadership because you're a monster. But if you truly love people, you will not be satisfied with only shepherding them.
That's good.
You are willing to lead them. And so what I want to do is I want to just kind of craft out a picture of helping people see what is this greater skill set of leading look like that can be built upon a foundation of shepherding.
Yeah.
Because I really believe shepherds make people feel better, but leaders are able to make the world better. And we have to be willing to adopt that higher skill set. Shepherds help people feel good. Leaders enable people to do something great and to become something great. And we have to be willing to step into that.
That's awesome. I think this is going to get a rise.
Yeah.
In the best way possible to maybe start having people think differently about what this really means for them individually, not just their organization. So I think you have to take this on as a person individually before you can apply it to the whole organization. Because if you can't get it right yourself, it's certainly not going to be helpful to everyone else.
Accurate.
And this is just the start of this conversation. What do you want to wrap up for 221? Distinction. Shepherds.
My hope, and I really need people like next at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know. We'll see how far this goes. I've got a list. We'll see how quickly we can move through it.
lists.
We're going to start it next week.
Everyone's got a list.
But to say like, I want business leaders who may view shepherding as soft to see what it looks like to love people and not just use them.
It's great.
And I want church leaders to see what it looks like to move people to a healthier spot and not just care for them where they are.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it means the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it. Rate and review on Apple Podcast or on Spotify. You won't believe how that helps get this in the hands of so many more leaders just like you trying to get better like us. We love hearing your stories, how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, visit leadinghope.online and send that to us or DM us. Send us a message on Facebook or Instagram. We would love to hear from you. And thanks for spending all 20 minutes with us today. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn. Come, better leader, make it count.
Woo!